36a right in the middle, smack in the middle, 3 lines down on the wide lines. Amar Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi Elazar says the word alav. If you use the word lav in when you're making an oath, you invoke the word lav. So that's going to be a shvuah. And hein, the word yes, can also be used in the form of a shvuah. So Bishlam alav shvuah d'ksiv lo yelecha od mayim lemabel. Hashem himself said there will not be. He used the word velo. There will not be any more water in the mabel. There's not going to be another flood. V'ksiv kimei noach zosli asher nishbati. And then later it's referred to, way later, in Divrei Hayamim, it's referred to that Hashem made a shvuah. So Hashem himself made a shvuah that there's going to be no more flood in the world. So, and what word did he use when he made that shvuah? Lo. Velo ye'od hamayim. So we see the word lo is valid to be used in the form of an oath. Elahain, where do you see the word yes can be used in the form of a shvuah? Elahain shvuah minalan. Where's that from? That we say svara. That's logic. That's just why. Midalo shvuah hein nami shvuah. If you can use no for an oath, you can use yes for an oath as well. Amarava with one caveat. Behuda amar lav lav trei zimne. Behuda amar hein hein trei zimne. If they say the word lo twice, so Hashem also did that. D'chsiv lo yikaris kol basar od mimeim abel. Sounds like when you say it twice, you reinforce your words. I'm not going to bring, another flood, and there will no longer be a destruction of mankind. So when you reiterate it and you say it twice, so it makes it a little starker, makes it a little stronger, and that can be used as an oath. Yeah. V'lo ye'od ma'im l'mabul. So midalav trezimne, the word lo, Hashem used the word lo twice. So logic dictates that when you want to use the word yes, you have to say yes also 2 times. Yes, I will do, and then yes, therefore it will be, something like that. Hey nami trezimni. Okay. Back to the Mishnah had a number of cases that is a machlokas, the rabbis, and Rav Meir. And we're talking there about the different references of Hashem's name. Not his name himself, but the compassionate one, slow to anger, what we call kinuyim. So the first case there was hamakal b'kulan chayip. If you curse somebody with those names, you're going to be liable. Divrei Reb Meir, according to Reb Meir, Chacham said you're going to be exempt. So now let's see more about this. Tana Rabbanan says the Brisa ish ish ki kal elokav v'nasachato. So it says a person who curses God and bears sin. Matamad lomar. What's it teaching me? V'halo kvar namar. It already taught me. V'nakev shem Hashem os yumas. If you blaspheme God, then you'll surely die. Yachal lo yechayv el al shem hamiyuchad. Maybe you're only going to. Yeah. Maybe only if you use Hashem's name, Yud Kei Vav Kei. So maybe that's going to be you'll only be liable for that name. Minayin lerabos es hakinuyim. How do I know that all the other references are also going to make me liable if I curse Hashem in the name of compassion, or the name a non Yud Kei Vav Kei name, in the name Elokim or Shakai or things like that? How do you know that you're liable? Talmud lomar ish ish ki kal elokav. The verse repeats itself. That says if you curse God, it sounds like with anything, not only with a special name, but any other name also. So the extra verse includes the other names. Mikol makom. Nevertheless, any way you curse God with a reference to His name was going to be prohibited. Divrei Rabbi Meir, Chacham argue and they say al shem hamiyuchad b'misa, his unique name, special name is b'misa, that you get killed for. But on the other references to Hashem's name, that's only going to be a negative prohibition. That's not going to invoke the death penalty. One who curses their parents, hamakal aviv imo. So that was also a machlokas Reb Meir and the Chachamim. Reb Meir said Yechayev, Chacham say you're patur. So says the Gemara, who's this Chachamim, man Chachamim? Who's this opinion of the rabbis? Says the Gemara, it's really the opinion of Rabbi Menachem Bar Yossi. It's the opinion of Rabbi Menachem Bar Yossi. Rabbi Nachman Bar Yossi Omer, he says, Benakvo Shem Yumas. So he says, when one uses, sounds like curse with the name, he shall be killed. Matamad Lomar Shem. So it sounds like that verse is extra. So what's the uniqueness of this verse that it's teaching you that only if you use Hashem's name are you going to be killed? So Limed Al Makal, we use it to teach you about cursing one's parents. Al Makal Avi Moshe Enuchayv Achi Kalim B'Shem. You're only liable if you actually curse them in God's name. So that's the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, and Reb Meir argues. Amakal Atzmo V'Chavero, one curses himself or his friend. Amar B'Yanai V'Divrei Hakol. So when it comes to cursing yourself, there the Mishnah does not say that it's a machlokas. It just says, yeah, Atzmo V'Chavero V'Kulan Oiver B'Loisase. Says when you curse yourself or your friend, that there's no machlokas. Everyone agrees. It sounds like if you use any of the other references, you'll also be liable. Amar B'Yana, I have a divrei hakol. That's according to everybody. Everyone agrees. Atzmo d'chsiv. How do you know if you curse yourself, you're going to be liable? It's interesting. It says Raki Shomer Lecha U'Shmor Nafshecha Ma'od. This verse is always used when it comes to physical health. This is the verse that's used for physical health. You know, how do you know you have to take care of yourself physically? And everyone quotes this verse. You should take care of your soul. But really, we're using it that you should not take care of your soul as reference to your general physicality, your general health. It's really referred to taking care of your spiritual health. You shouldn't curse yourself. Cursing yourself would be damaging spiritually to yourself. So Raki Shamar Lecha, be very careful. Ushmor Nafshchamod, take a lot of care of your soul. It's interesting. We might have mentioned earlier. There seems to be two opinions in Bava Kama about injuring yourself. Liable or you're exempt. But everybody agrees by spiritually damaging yourself that you're going to be liable. That's interesting. So how do you know? Okay, Kid Rabbi Avin, Rabbi La, Adam Kol Makom Shamar Hishamar Pen Va'al. So it doesn't say in this verse any negative commandment. It doesn't say you shall not curse yourself. It says be careful, be very careful, proceed with caution. Yeah, but Rabbi Eloi says, Rabbi Avin says in the name of Rabbi Eloi, whenever the Torah says either the word Hishamar, be careful, pen, less, the al, don't, it's another way to refer to a lo sase, a do not do. And therefore, it's going to be a negative commandment of cursing oneself. That's how you know you can't curse yourself. How about cursing your friend? It says by a deaf mute that you cannot curse him. But we're using that as a template to you can't curse anybody else. Just as you can't curse a deaf mute, you can't curse anybody else either. Okay. Now, the end of the Mishnah said that another way to make an oath, to invoke a curse is really you're reading the curses in the Torah and you're saying they should come upon you. Now, simply read, it's in the second person. So that means if you're reading the Chumash out loud and there's someone sitting next to you, so you keep saying, and the curse that Hashem said should be brought upon you. So to that, Yosef Rav Kahana was sitting, Kamed Rabbi Yehuda, v'Yosef Ka'amar Hamasnis, and he was reading this Mishnah. They're studying. He's reading the Mishnah, and he just keeps going. And the curse should be upon you, and this should be upon you, and that should be upon you. So the Kamar Hamas, he's in Kiddutanan. He read the Mishnah as it's written. So to that, the other one responded, Amar Leh, no, Kina, make some kind of euphemism. Really means say it in the third person, about him and not about you. Yeah. Yosef Ahumer Rabbanon Kameder of Kahana Yosef Kamar. So then there's another verse, I think it's in Tehillim. Yeah, in Tehillim it says V'Kamar Gam Yitat Netzach, you'll be cut off for eternity. You'll be cut off from the tent. And your roots will be uprooted basically for eternity. So he was reading that verse in Tehillim, just saying Tehillim, and the guy sitting next to him. So he all of a sudden he starts hearing, you'll be cut off for eternity, you're going to be uprooted. So he tells him, Kina, please make it in the third person. Some kind of euphemism, don't direct it at me. So says the Gemara, why it's bringing me both of these stories? I can learn from one of these stories, whether it's the Mishnah or whether it's the verse in Tehillim, to not speak about somebody in the second person, rather in the third person. Says the Gemara, Tartalamali. Says the Gemara, no, I needed both cases. Both, I need to teach you that when you're reading a Mishnah, that's directed in the second person, changes to the third person. And if you're saying Tehillim, it's in the second person, changes to the third person. Why do I have to have both of these cases? You'd have thought maybe this rule only applies to Mishnayos, but the verses themselves, you can read them without having to change it to a third person. Says the Gemara, no. Whenever, whether it's a verse or whether it's a Mishnah, if you're reading and there's someone next to you, don't say it in the second person, say it in the third person. Yeah. Okay, now the end of the Mishnah spoke about a guy says, a curse should not be upon you, or it says, you should be blessed in the positive. So Hashem should not harm you, you should be blessed. Now, does that constitute a oath or not? Well, really, it's if you don't do this, then the negative is going to come upon you. But he didn't say it in the negative. He only said it in the positive. Yeah, you'll be blessed. So Rabbi Meir says, and this comes up at different places, that there's really two ways of speaking. There's speaking through explicit words, and there's speaking through implication. Also, far I'm speaking, if I tell you I'm going to the park, it means I'm not going to the Maravet's house, right? So I've implied something with my speech. So when you're saying positively, you shall not be stricken. Rather, you should be blessed, and good should come upon you. So that means, according to Rav Meir's Mechayev, which means that yeah. So he said like this: Al Yakka, don't harm the guy, and then you'll be blessed. But you should know, if you do harm the guy, then you'll be cursed. Yeah. So now the guy is trying to impose a shvu on somebody else. He wants the other guy to swear. So he says, I'm not gonna, harm is not gonna befall you if you swear. For whatever reason, he needs him to swear to be a witness for him, which would mean that if you don't swear, harm will befall you. And he wants to make the guy make a shvuah. So the problem is, though, he only said it in the negative, that nothing's going to be bad for you if you come and swear, implying that if you don't come and swear, things are going to be bad for you. So the question is that enough to obligate someone to make a shvuah? So Rav Meir says yes, and the Chachamim say no. So on that, the Gemara says, he says, but we know already from Kiddushin it talks there about stipulations. You have to always, when you make a stipulation, you have to always double it. If this happens, then X, and if not, then Y. So why? Because Rav Meir says speaking through implication is not a valid form of speaking. So that's Rabbi Meir's opinion in Kiddushin. And here it sounds like he says you're chayiv because speaking through implication is a valid way to speak. So the question is, which one is it? In Shavuos, it sounds like it is a valid way. That's why you are liable. And if the guy goes and denies that Shavuot and then is found to be a liar, he is liable. And yet in Kiddushin, he's explicit that it's not like that. So says the Gemara, and it's going to be a little bit funny going back and forth about this, because we're basically stuck. Reb Meir is contradicting himself. So it says Eipach. So right now we're saying switch it. Really, Reb Meir holds you're exempt in line with what he says in Kiddushin, and the Chachamim say you're going to be liable. Fine. So right now we're switching. We're switching what Reb Meir holds, and really we're saying that the Mishnah made a mistake, and it really Reb Meir holds you're exempt. And speaking through implication is not a valid form of speaking. So Kiyas Rabbi Yitzchak Tana Kedetnan, when Rav Yitzchak came, though, he taught the Mishnah as it's written, that Reb Meir holds you liable. Amar Rav Yosef, Hashda the Anan Tanan Hachi. Now that Rav Yosef, taught the Mishnah the way it's written, and the Kiyas Rav Yitzchak Tani Hachi, And Rabbi Yitzchak, when he came and he gave us a class about this Mishnah, he also read the Mishnah the way it's written. He didn't switch anything. Shema mina dafka tanan. It must be that you should leave the Mishnah the proper way. And Rav Meir really holds that you are liable because speaking through implication is also a valid form of speaking. What's the problem? What do you do with Kiddushin? Elakasha. What's with Kiddushin? So says the Gemara right now, the Gemara thinks, Ki lesle b'mamona. Aval bi'isura isle. When does he not hold of this? Speaking through implication, that's by monetary cases. But by isure isle, but when it comes to isurim, when it comes to things involving prohibitions, there he would hold that it does work, that one could speak through implication. I must be missing something because the Gemara says right now that by things revolving, non-monetary cases, so then you are speaking through implication is a valid form of speaking, and that's that's good. That's good. That's good. And that's our Mishnah, and our Mishnah holds your chayiv because speaking through implication is a valid form of speaking. Sorry. Okay, that's good. So now says the Gemara, but hare sota. Sota is primarily not about money. It's about if you're permitted to your husband, or you're not permitted to your husband. And what do you find over there? He says that when the Kohen makes the sota swear, it says that he makes her make an oath, and he tells the woman, Im lo shachav ish osak, if a man did not lie with you, v'im lo satis, and if you didn't veer off, tuma takas ishek, and you didn't lie with him, hinaki mime'amar. So the word hinaki is like naki. You'll be cleansed. You'll be cleansed from the waters of the sota. So you'll be cleansed. Now, it says hinaki ksiv. So that means that, right, if you didn't do it, you'll be cleansed. And if you did do it, then you won't be cleansed. But it only says it in the positive. If you did do it, then you'll be cleansed. Now, the word hinaki apparently should really have a yud. It should be not in the Torah. It's hey nun kuf yud. It should be hey yud nun kuf yud. So says the Gemara, Taima diksiv hinaki. It says hinaki, and Rashi a little bit explains that by not saying the yud, it's very similar to the word chinki. Chinki is to be strangled. So in the word itself, it's really implying the positive and the negative. If you're free of sin, you'll be cleansed, and if not, you'll be strangled. Meaning it's not going to work out well. So says the Gemara, it's only because it writes the word in an irregular way. Time of the ksiv hinaki, but halav hachi. But if not for that, michlalav atasha meyahen lo amrinan. If not for the fact that Torah wrote the word hinaki, which is saying in the positive you'll be cleaned, you'll be cleansed, and in the word itself is the implication that if not, you won't be cleansed. If not for that, we wouldn't say that from the positive you can derive the negative. Implication would not be a valid form of speaking, and yet sota is by prohibited matters, not by monetary matters. So learn from sota that speaking through implication is not a valid form of speaking, and since that's true, that flies right in the face of Rav Meir's opinion that by isurim, like our Mishnah, speaking through implication is a valid form of speaking. So we're back stuck. So says the Gemara, what can we do? Ela epoch. I'm stuck. You got to switch it. Apparently, Rav Meir holds that no, by isurim, it's not going to be valid to speak through implication. You have to speak directly. If this X and if not Y. Says the Gemara, no. We'll try again. Afilu b'isur ela epoch. Afilu b'isur last. Right. By isurim, there's no speaking through implication. Fine. Maskef le Rabina ubi sur lesle. Is that true that by things that are prohibited, there's no speaking through implication? We have two cases in the Torah like that. Elamiata shesuya yayin upriye rosh. So when a Kohen goes in to the base of Mikdash, it says yayin v'shecher al teisht. Don't go in. It says yayin v'shecher al teisht v'lo tamusu. If you don't drink wine, you will not die, referring to a Kohen doing the service in the temple. So if you will not drink wine, you will not die, implying if you drink wine and go serve in the temple, you will die. And Pruye Rosh, if calls by a Kohen, right? Yeah, that if his hair is too long, that's also invalid service. But it's learned out from not drinking wine in Sanhedrin. So both of drinking wine and not getting a haircut, the way you know there's a penalty, there's a punishment for it, is only because if you do this, if you don't do this, you will not die, implying if you do this, then you will die. So what do you see? Explicit verse in the Torah that by things involving prohibited matters, we do say that speaking through implication is a valid form of speaking. So, could it be that Rameir doesn't hold of such of these of that you get a death penalty for these things? How could it be? We learned in Sanhedrin that the fallen get the death penalty. One who drinks wine and serves in the temple, one who doesn't get a haircut and serves in the temple. So you're stuck again. We have according to Rav Meir that you are liable for speaking through implication. So says the Gemara, you're right. Really, you should switch it. You should switch it. And kilesle b'mamona. When it comes to monetary matters, there you have to speak out both sides. If this will happen, then X, and if not, then Y. But by prohibited matters, be isura isle, there is speaking through implication. We asked from Sota, the word hinaki. But if not for the word hinaki written funny, you would never say this. Says them, you're right. Sota is different. Why? The shiny Sota, the isura, the ispe mamonahu. Sota is a funny case. On the one hand, there's an implication of you're prohibited or you're permitted to your husband. That's one consequence of the Sota waters. There's another consequence also. You get the ksuba or you don't get the ksuba. If you're found guilty, you don't get the ksuba. If you're innocent, you do get the ksuba. So even though it's primarily about are you permitted or are you prohibited, but it has a financial aspect to it. So since it has a financial aspect to it, it's not purely like, not getting a haircut and serving in the temple. That's purely either it's permitted or it's prohibited. There's no monetary aspect over there. So since Sota is an Isura, the Ispe Mamona, it has a financial aspect to it, therefore it's different. So at the end of the day, Rabbi Meir holds that when it comes to Shavuos or drinking and serving in the temple or not getting a haircut, all the pure things that are permitted or prohibited, all of those, then they're speaking through implication is a valid form of speaking. So that's in one group. Pure monetary cases, like making a stipulation in Kiddushin, so that's going to be there. You have to speak out both sides. You can't speak through implication. And then a sota, which is in the middle, it has an aspect of permitted versus prohibited. It has an aspect of monetary cases. That's going to be like the monetary cases, and therefore their speaking through implication would not be valid. There you would have to actually speak it out. Because a consequence of the sota being guilty or innocent is, does she get her ksuba or not? Okay. Or does she lose her ksuba? That's the financial aspect of it, yeah. So sometimes you have isurim, that's prohibited, permitted, mamonim, mamonas, that's monetary, and you have things that are in the middle. Yeah. Okay. Hadlok Shavuos Ha'edos. Okay, good. We finished that parak. Next chapter. We're flying over here. Yeah, I know we're behind, but we're still flying. So we're flying at slower speeds. Yeah. So we'll get there. Not to worry. We always make it. So 4 a.m. if we have to. Yeah. Okay. So maybe hopefully the Shabbos will do a little catch up. So Shavuos HaPikadon. This is where, well, we'll see in a second, but Pikadon means that you deposited something by somebody. It's a deposit. So you make an oath about a deposit. So first, like the setup has been the last few oaths, who can make the oath? So in this case, everybody. No heges b'anashim with benashim, whether a man or a woman, they both can watch someone else's object. B'rechokim b'krovim, whether you're relative or you're not a relative, doesn't matter because it's not to do with testimony. It's just if you're watching someone's object. B'kshem b'psulim, whether you're valid to be a witness or you're not valid to be a witness. B'fnei bezdin, whether you're in bezdin, v'shlo b'fnei bezdin, you're outside of bezdin, doesn't matter. Mipi atzmo, you can do it on your own. Umipi acherim. Or someone else can make you make a shvuah. However, eino chai, you're not obligated ad shich berenu bebezdin. According to Reb Meir, you have to deny that you have the object. You can only deny that in court. Yeah. Yeah. The Chachamim Omrim, Bein Mipi Atzmo, whether you yourself made the oath, Bein Mipi Acherim, someone else made the oath, made you make an oath. So, Kevan Shekafar Bo Chayev, since you denied it, you're going to be liable. Sounds like you don't have to be in court. You could just be out of court. Fine. That's that. Now, V'chayev al Zadon Shvua. So, it doesn't say here the word V'ne'elam, you have to have a lapse, which means even if you deny advertently, object, I never touched your object. You're gone for Passover. You give someone your things to watch, and you give them your dog to watch, whatever it is. And where's my dog? Don't know who your dog is. And then you're found to be a liar. So there, even though you denied it, you did it advertently, you're still liable to bring a sacrifice. Because it doesn't say there that you have to have a lapse, and only then you bring a sacrifice. Nope, even advertently you bring a sacrifice. Okay. The al shigagaso im zadon pikadon. Another case is if you are al shigagaso im zadon pikadon. So basically, you know that it's wrong to make a false oath about someone else's object. You don't know, though, that if I do it, I'm liable to sacrifice. That's also an aspect of there. You're still going to be liable for that. The eino chayev al shigagaso greidasa. If you just don't know that this is wrong, you don't know this is prohibited. For that, you're not going to be liable. Rashi says you're considered an onus, like someone who's it's like as if it's an unavoidable accident. Meaning, if you had no idea that it's ever prohibited, so then you're going to be exempt for that. Umachayev al zadono. When you do make this oath advertently, what are you liable? Asham bekesef shkalim. You have to bring a guilt offering, be kesef shkalim, with at least, I guess, the amount of kesef shkalim, 2 shkalim, 2 slime. Rashi says, yeah, 2 silver slime. Okay, fine. So those are the rules. Now, Shavuos habikadon keitzad. What's the case? We're going through a bunch of cases. Let's try to finish the Mishnah. Let's see how far we get. Okay. Shavuos habikadon ketzah. What's the case of a Shavuos habikadon? Amr lo. So Reuven tells Shimon, "Tainli pigdoni. Give me the object that you watched from me. That you have in your hands." So Shimon responds to Reuven, "Shvua she'ein lecha biyadi. I don't have your shvua." 1. O she'amr lo ein lecha biyadi. I don't have your shvua, and he tells him, "Mashbiachani. Make a shvua about that." And he says, "Okay, va'amar amen." And then he's found to be a liar. Harei zeh chayev. You're liable. Hishbi alav chamesh pa'amim. You tell him 5 times, "Give me back my object." I don't have. Give me my object. I don't have. Give me back my object. So bein b'fnei bezdin, ubein shel b'fnei bezdin. The cover, the guy denies it. He's liable. Chayev al kol achas va'achas. He's liable for each and every denial. He keeps denying it. I don't have your object. He's found to be a liar. I don't have your object. He's found to be a liar. Each one he's liable for. Rabbi Shimon matam. Why? Why liable for each one and not only liable one? Here, you're not. It's not like you already testified. You can't testify again. He says, "Give me back my my car." He says, "I don't have your car," and he denies it. Okay, guy tells you again. Okay, now give me back my car. He says, "I still don't have your car." So now give me back my car. Okay, I still don't have your car. Each time is a new denial. What do you say? Oh, a new denial. It's a new denial. Fine. Therefore, you're liable each and every one. Hayu chamesh tovin. There's 5 guys that all deposited their stuff by somebody, and they all come and they say tovin also. They have a claim against them. Amrulo kain lano pikadon. We all bought that car together. We left it by you. We gave you the cyber truck, and now it's gone. Kain lano pikadon sheish lano biyadcha. So he says, what is it? Bad choice of vehicles, yeah. It drove itself away. So Shavuot she'ein lechem biyadi. So he says, I make a shvua. I don't have your object in my hands. That only liable 1. Eino chayv alachas. It's 5 people. It's 1 object. 1 object. One shvua. 1 denial. Found to be a liar. Only liable once. However, if he says 5 people deposited and he tells them shvua she'ein lecha biyadi, v'lo lecha. I don't have not your thing, Reuven, not your thing, Shimon, not your thing, Levi, and he makes a shvua to each one of them, and he doesn't have their object, then chayev al kol achas v'achas. Then he's liable for each and every shvua that he made and was found to be a liar. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Achi Omer Shvuah B'Achrono. He says after you tell each person, not you, not you, not you, not you, not you, he has to add in the word Shvuah at the end. A Shvuah, I don't have anybody's thing. Then you see when he says not you, not you, not you, not you, not you, the Shvuah, the oath goes back on each and every one. He has to say at the end though that I don't owe an oath to anybody. And now we look back and who is anybody? Well, he said not you, and not you, and not you, and not you, and not you. And therefore you'll be liable for each and every one. Rabbi Shimon Omer, Achi Omer, Shvuah l'kol echad v'echad. Saying not you, not you, not you is not enough. He has to say, I swear to you that I don't owe you, and I swear to you that I don't owe you, and I swear to you that I don't owe you. He has to speak out Shvuah by each and every person, and then if he's found to be a liar, then he'll have to be liable 5 times over. You have to say, you can't say not to you, not to you, not to you, not to you. You have to speak it out. Shvuah, not Shvuah to you, and a Shvuah to you, and a Shvuah to you. Okay. So now the guy says to him, give me back the object that I gave you. Give me back the what's the Shumas Yad? What that you didn't touch it. You didn't violate it. Gezel, give me back my stolen object. Give me back my lost object that you have in your hands. So it sounds like 4 different things. So, right. So either it's an object, or that I guess you didn't violate the thing. How's it translated?
No. It's that I have in your position. Yes.
Yeah, I didn't violate it, right? So Shumas Yad is that you did something wrong with it.
I was just reading the first chapter.
Oh, how do they translate the Shumas Yad? Translate it as. They translate it as. Here. Oh, alone. The deposit and the loan. Sorry. Okay, alone. So give me back my deposit, my loan, my stolen object, and my lost object. The guy has 4 claims against you. So the guy responds, I have nothing in your hands. I have nothing of yours in my hand. He said it in one vague statement. He denies all 4 in one statement, and then he's found to be a liar, only liable 1. He denied all 4 things. What the guy is basically saying is, give me back my stuff. And he says, I don't have your stuff. So that's 1. You're only liable 1. So Shvuah she'ein lecha biyadi. But if he speaks it out, Shvuah, I'm making a Shvuah. I don't have not your deposit. Pikadon, not your deposit, not your loan, not your stolen object, not your lost object. If you speak it out, and then with the Shvuah, and then you're found to be a liar, chayiv al kol achas va'achas. You're liable for each and every one. Okay, we'll stop here. What day? Tuesday. We have more time. Okay, good. I was just checking you're paying attention. Okay, this is great. Wow, much more time. Phew, good thing I didn't log off, right? So you can write a book of all the mistakes I've made. Yeah. So Rosh Chodesh is the worst. Okay, fine. Who's keeping track of me? So Teili Chitin. Okay, so the guy says now, give me back my wheat, my barley, and my spelt. Yeah. So the guy went gluten-free for a few moments, and he gave you all of his wheat, barley, and spelt, and then now he wants it back. He realized it wasn't gluten-free; it was just I don't know, allergies.
Spelt is gluten-free.
Oh, spelt is gluten-free.
I'm thinking it might be.
Yeah. Honestly,
but not wheat.
Honestly, I have no idea. I don't know. We don't have so much bread or gluten. I mean, I guess we do on Shabbos. So, or any other Mizonos products probably have. So either way, the guy says, give me back my wheat, my barley, and my spelt. So, and the guy tells him the same kind of thing. I don't have any of your stuff. So and then you're found to be a liar. You're only liable 1. If he says though, if I deny by speaking out each and every one, I don't have your wheat, barley, and spelt, then you're going to be liable, and you're found to be a liar. Then you'll be liable for each and every one. Okay. Now, anasta upitita asbiti. A guy comes and claims you either raped or seduced my daughter. That's the claim against him. Now, interesting what this is doing exactly in Shavuos Hapikadon, but we'll see in a second because really he's going to owe money. So let's see. So these 2 cases involve a fine, meaning what we call a knas, not just a not just embarrassment. They you have to pay a fine. So now the guy says lo anasti v'lo petiti. I didn't rape. I didn't seduce. So now the father tells him, Ashbiachani, make a shvuah, make a shvuah. says Va'amar Amen. Says Amen. So, and then he's found to be a liar. Then he's chayiv. Yeah. Rabbi Shimon poter. Rabbi Shimon says you're exempt. Why? She'eino mishalim knas al piatzmo. Well, let's think. You don't pay a fine if you come and admit. If you come and admit and say, I did X, Y, and Z wrong, you don't pay a fine for that, right? If you say I stole, so you don't pay double, because if you admit to a fine, you're exempt. Special verse in the Torah. So too here, since this has the fine element to it, you're going to be exempt. To that they respond, Amru lo, yeah, you're right. You don't pay a fine. But what about the other things? When you rape or seducing a girl, you still need to pay for her embarrassment or her pagam. Pagam is degradation, reduction of value. So for those, you do have to pay. So for sure, you're going to be liable when you're found to be a liar about the oath that you made. Okay. And also, everyone started walking at like 6:45, got me nervous. Yeah. So we don't usually, Jews don't come early always, So now the guy says more claims. Yeah, ganafte, sure, you stole my ox. Omer lo ganafti. I did not steal your ox. Mashpiachani. So he says, make a shvuah that you didn't steal my ox. He says, yeah, va'amar amen, amen. So, and then he's found to be a liar. He's liable. Fine. But if he says ganafti, I stole it. However, lo tavachti v'lo macharti. I didn't shecht it and I didn't sell it. Which, if you were to steal, shecht and sell, not only are you liable for the principal, you're liable either 4 or 5, depending on the animal. So, mashbiachani v'omer amen. There you're putter. There you're exempt. And then you're found to be a liar, and you really did shecht it and sell it. You're going to be exempt because you don't. Just like you can't incriminate yourself for paying a fine, you can't deny. You won't be liable if you're found to be in denial if you make a false oath regarding a fine either. Just like if you walked in and said, I stole, I shecht it, and I sold it, you're not going to be liable 4 or 5. If you make a shvuah that you didn't do it, and then you're found to be a liar, and you really did shecht it and sell it, you're also going to be exempt from paying a fine. Hamis shorcha es shori. Your shore, your ox, killed my ox. Omer lo hamis. No, it didn't. So mashbiachani, make a shvuah. He said, okay, I will. Amar amen. Says amen. And then he's found to be a liar. So he's liable. However, hamis shorcha es avdi. If your ox killed my servant, which you're liable to pay 30 silver coins, that's considered a knas in the Torah. V'hu omer lo hamis. No, it didn't. It did not kill. Mashbiachani, make a shvuah. Amar amen. I said, okay, amen. And then he's found to be a liar, and his ox did kill the other guy's servant. He's going to be exempt because that's also considered a fine. Basically, all the fine cases we're going to be exempt for. Amar lo chavaltabi. You caused me injury. You hurt me. You punched me in the face. You caused me a lot of blood loss. You caused me a wound, a bruise. I didn't hurt you. I didn't punch you. I didn't cause you any blood. What are you talking about? He says, mashbiachani, make a shvuah. He says, fine. V'amar amen. He says, amen. And then he's found to be a liar. They found cameras and he punched him right in the face. Yeah. So then you're going to be liable. Okay. However, Amar lo avdo hipalta es shinai. Your servant knocked out my tooth. Visimisa es einai. And he knocked out my eye. No, it's not true. He didn't knock out your tooth. He didn't knock out your eye. So he says, mashbiachani, make a shvuah. He says, fine, I will. Amar amen. He says, amen. And then he's found to be a liar, and his servant really did knock out his tooth and knock out his eye. So the general rule is the Eved goes free. It's the other way around. When you knock out his eye, he goes free. Right.
Owner's eye.
Why am I? Yeah, your servant knocked out mine. So really, I guess what should happen? He should free a servant. If the servant knocks out someone else's eye, this doesn't make sense, right? Right. Amar amen, you're putter. Why are you putter?
It's knas.
What's the knas?
Payment for
That's it. The servant knocked out someone else's eye. If you knock out his eye, then you send him free. Right. Why if he knocks out your eye?
Because what's a payment for injuring somebody else? It's all knas. Oh, there's a class element to it.
Yeah, so what is that? That's on
If we're disabling one of the limbs,
right.
owns Canaanite slave as chattel, the fact that he must set him free is obviously a crime.
Right. Yeah, but that's if the master knocks out the guys out. But here it's the other way around.
That's very longer term. Says that you knocked out my tooth. You knocked out Evan's tooth.
That's what it is?
Let's go back.
Amrlo, Avdo hipalta shinai v'simtas einai. That means you knocked out the Evet's tooth?
Yeah. If I ever once Canaanite slave said to him, you knocked out my tooth.
Oh. Oh, Amrlo Avdo. Sorry. Amrlo Avdo. The Evet said, you knocked out my tooth. Sorry. I messed it up. Sorry. The Evet is talking. The servant says, you knocked out my tooth and you knocked out my eye. And the master says, nothing doing. No, I didn't. No, he apologized. And the servant says to him, swear to me that you didn't knock out my eye and you didn't knock out my tooth. And he says, okay, fine. V'amar amen. And then he's found to be a liar, and he really did knock out his own servant's tooth. And he really did knock out his servant's eye. So then he's going to be patur because that is a knas. By knocking out your servant's eye, you have to now free him. Maybe just pay him back money. Nope, you have to free him. That's a knas. Zeh haklal, this is the general rule. Kol hamishalim al piatzmo. Whoever who would walk into court, and if he would admit he would have to pay, such a person, if he denies an oath and is found to be a liar, so then you pay. However, if you would walk into court and you would admit to something and you would be exempt, like any case of a fine of a knas, so in such a case, by a shavua, if you're found to be a liar, you're going to be exempt also. You're going to be patur. Okay, now we can stop for real.
We should go.
Okay.